throwaway account for obvious reasons. I'm a 38-year-old guy, and I'd been married to my wife, let's call her Lisa, for 12 years. We have one kid, a mortgage, and what I thought was a pretty average suburban life. Not perfect, but not something I ever thought would fall apart like this. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. About 6 months ago, Lisa started becoming different. She was always glued to her phone, even late at night. Our sex life, which wasn't fireworks to begin with, completely died. She stopped kissing me goodbye when I left for work. Hell, even her insults got sharper. Like, I'd bring up dinner plans and she'd roll her eyes and say, "Why don't you try doing something useful for once instead of whining?" We used to be a team. We went through job losses, moved states, even survived my mother's long illness together. But lately, it felt like I was living with a roommate who hated my guts and couldn't be bothered to hide it. At first, I thought maybe she was just going through something. Work stress, hormonal shifts, maybe even depression. I asked, gently at first, if she was okay. She'd snap at me, accuse me of starting drama, and tell me to stop acting like a jealous freak. And like an idiot, I believed her. I thought I was being paranoid. I wanted to fix things. I suggested counseling. She laughed. Laughed in my face and said, "You think I need therapy because you can't make me happy?" That one stung. Still, I kept pushing through. For our son. For the house we both poured everything into. For the promises we made. But the more I tried to pull her close, the more she pushed away. I didn't realize it yet, but I was already standing on the edge of a cliff, and the ground was starting to give way. About a month ago, I got home early from work, something that almost never happens. There was a power outage at the office, and we were sent home. I didn't tell Lisa because I thought I'd surprise her. In hindsight, I definitely surprised someone. I walked into their house and noticed 2 wine glasses on the coffee table. Red wine. She hates red wine. Says it gives her headaches. I called out, "Lisa," and heard the unmistakable sound of the back door closing. When I went to the kitchen, she was standing there, totally startled, holding a dish towel like she'd just wiped away evidence. And her face? Like a deer in headlights. She recovered fast, though. Said she was just enjoying some alone time with wine and Netflix. Alone. With 2 glasses. Right. Something clicked in me. The glass. The perfume I didn't recognize in the living room. The shaved legs on a Wednesday. It was all starting to add up, and not in a good way. Still, I didn't say anything right away. I needed proof. I wanted to be 100% sure because accusing someone of cheating is a nuclear move. So I played it cool. Nodded. Said I was going to take a nap. And while she was in the shower, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. She had a passcode on it, new, by the way, but I guessed it on the second try. It was our son's birthday. Classic. She probably didn't think I'd stoop that low. I opened her messages and there it was. A thread with some guy named Aaron. Not saved as anything cute like work buddy or cousin, just Aaron. And the messages? Fire, last night was amazing. Kiss mark, I wish I was waking up next to you, face with rolling eyes, his clueless. I could be screwing you in our bed and he'd thank me for changing the sheets. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My hands were shaking. I sat there on the edge of the bed trying not to throw up. I'd been played. Lied to. Humiliated in my own house. And the worst part? She wasn't even trying to hide it. Not really. She'd gotten comfortable. Maybe she thought I was too much of a doormat to ever call her out. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. After reading those messages between Lisa and Aaron, I sat frozen. For a solid 20 minutes. Just staring at the screen. There's something surreal about realizing the person you've built your life with is talking about you like some pathetic joke. Like you're just some clueless extra in the movie of their secret life. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to. God, did I want to? But something in me said, no. Gather everything. Get all the proof. I think I needed the evidence as armor, because if I'd confronted her then, she'd just twist it. She always had a way of flipping things and making me feel like I was crazy. So I started watching closely. I began checking her location history when I could, which she'd somehow left on. I'd never thought to look before. Suddenly, all those late nights at yoga and work meetings started to look real sketchy. She was never where she said she was. Restaurants I hadn't been to. A hotel downtown, twice. Once for 3 hours. It wasn't subtle. I started collecting screenshots. Messages, locations, even receipts from our joint bank account. She had charged a $200 dinner on our card the same night she told me she had a stomach bug and stayed in bed. That one burned. She had no idea I knew. In fact, she was getting cockier by the day. She started mocking me more openly. One night, I tried to initiate sex. She literally laughed and said, "Not tonight, I'm already sore." I remember my heart stopping. I didn't even respond. Just stared at the ceiling for hours. A week later, I went full detective mode. I installed a camera in the garage, motion activated and small enough to hide near the shelf behind the paint cans. 2 days later, jackpot. I caught Aaron on camera. Tall guy, early 40s maybe, came in like he owned the place. They made out right in the garage, like it was some teen movie. Then they disappeared inside. Together. That was the moment I stopped doubting myself. Stopped wondering if I was overreacting. I knew. And the weirdest part? I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just felt hollow. Like a glass that had been knocked off the table and shattered. You can't drink from it anymore. You just sweep it up and hope you don't cut yourself too badly in the process. I transferred the video to a hard drive and backed up all the phone evidence. I even printed some screenshots. I didn't know what I was going to do with them yet, but I wanted to be prepared. I didn't want her to gaslight me or worm her way out of it. This time, I needed the upper hand. The betrayal hit differently when I realized how calculated it all was. She wasn't some lost soul who made one bad decision. She planned this. Maintained 2 lives. And all while making me feel like the boring, incompetent husband who should be grateful she still shared a roof with me. I knew a confrontation was coming. I just had to pick the right moment. And trust me, when it came, it was explosive. I didn't sleep the night I got that garage footage. I lay there in bed beside her while she slept, probably dreaming about Aaron or whatever excuse she was going to use next. I was staring at the ceiling again, but this time I wasn't empty, I was planning. I decided the confrontation needed to happen when our son was away. I didn't want him to see any of it. So that Saturday, I dropped him off at his friend's house for a sleepover. Lisa barely noticed me leave, too busy scrolling on her phone and sipping her 3rd glass of wine. When I got home, I took a breath and walked straight into the living room where she was watching some reality show and said, flatly, "We need to talk." She rolled her eyes like a teenager. "Oh great, here we go," she muttered, without even pausing the TV. I didn't sit down. I pulled out the folder I'd prepared. Inside were the printed screenshots, receipts, and stills from the garage camera. I tossed it onto the coffee table. "Read that," I said. She looked at the folder like it was radioactive. "What the hell is this?" "Proof," I said. "Of what you've been doing. With Aaron. And whoever else." She laughed. Actually laughed. Like she was impressed. "Wow, you really went full FBI, didn't you?" I didn't say anything. She flipped through the pages, and that smugness started to melt. Her smile faded. She got quiet. Then she snapped the folder shut and threw it across the room. "You had no right to spy on me." That was her defense. Not denial. Not apology. Accusation. You've been lying to me for months, I said, still calm. Cheating. Gaslighting me. I have every right to know what's happening in my own house. She stood up and got in my face. Fine. You want honesty? I cheated. Yeah. Multiple times. Because I was bored, and you're boring. You haven't touched me like a man in years. Aaron makes me feel alive. That hit like a brick, but I kept my expression still. I wanted out a long time ago, she added, folding her arms. But you were too pathetic to leave. So yeah, I stayed. Played the part. Took what I needed. Her words were venom. Sharp. Precise. Like she wanted to break me. And honestly, for a minute, they did. I felt this wave of nausea, shame, and disbelief. I thought about all the times I'd begged for her attention. All the moments I tried to fix what I didn't even break. But I didn't yell. Didn't beg. Just looked at her and said, "We're done." She blinked. What? I'll have the divorce papers drafted by the end of next week. You'll hear from my lawyer. That was when she panicked. Her whole energy shifted. Wait, what? You're not even going to try to work this out. What about our son? I just stared at her. She got loud. So you're just gonna throw everything away? You already did, I said. You just didn't expect me to walk too. She stormed into the bedroom, slammed the door, and screamed something about how I'd regret this. I didn't follow. I didn't argue. I just sat down on the couch, in the silence, surrounded by the evidence of a life that had been one big performance. That night, I started packing a bag. And she started planning something of her own, something I didn't see coming. I spent the next few days staying at a cheap hotel. Not glamorous, but it was quiet. No yelling, no lies, no pretending. Just me, some instant coffee, and a pillow that felt like a sack of flour. Still better than staying in that house. Lisa texted non-stop. First it was angry rants. You think you're some hero? Grow up. You're ruining our son's life over one mistake. You're acting like some sad, weak man who needs Reddit validation. Then came the guilt trips. I never wanted to hurt you. You abandoned me emotionally years ago. If you'd actually been a man, I wouldn't have needed anyone else. And then, the worst of it, her trying to rewrite history. You knew our marriage was dead. You checked out before I did. Aaron was just a distraction. It meant nothing. I swear. But I stayed quiet. Didn't reply. I didn't trust myself to say anything that wouldn't make things worse. The next bombshell came via a call from my lawyer. I'd contacted her the day after the confrontation, and she was incredible, sharp, no-nonsense, efficient. She told me that Lisa had already contacted her own lawyer and was moving fast to protect her assets. I laughed. Her assets? Turns out, Lisa had been preparing for this a lot longer than I had. She'd moved money into a separate account, money from a joint savings fund we'd built together. She also claimed in her initial filing that I was emotionally unstable, citing paranoid behavior and controlling tendencies. Her plan was to get the house, full custody of our son, and spousal support. Let that sink in. She cheated on me. Mocked me. Lied for months. And now she was trying to bleed me dry and take my kid. When I finally got the courage to go back to their house to get some of my things, she was there, waiting. Dressed up. Calm. Smiling. I want to talk, she said sweetly. Like none of this had ever happened. Like she hadn't ripped our marriage apart and tried to turn it into a payday. I've already said everything I need to, I told her. Then she dropped her final line like she was reading it off a script. I confessed that I cheated, okay? I took the property. I was angry. But I'm very sorry. Can't we just move forward? Move forward. Those two words hit me harder than anything else. Not fix it, not take responsibility, just move forward, like I should forget it all and play happy family again. I stood there in that hallway, the same hallway where we'd kissed the day we moved in, and realized I was done. Like, really done. I told her, "You can keep the house. I want out of the prison." She looked stunned for a moment. She thought I'd fight her for it. She thought I cared about the brick and drywall. But the truth was, I just wanted peace. "I don't want the house," I added. "I want freedom." When I said I didn't want the house, she looked at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. Her mouth actually hung open for a second. I think she genuinely thought I'd beg to keep it or offer some kind of compromise. But I didn't care about the property. I didn't care about the furniture, or the kitchen we remodeled together, or the garden she barely touched but claimed as her sanctuary. It had all turned into a graveyard for a relationship I no longer recognized. And that's when her smile disappeared. "Oh," she said, her tone suddenly cold. "So you're just walking away from everything we built? Just like that?" "You already did," I told her. "I'm just cleaning up the mess." That's when she got nasty. I mean real nasty. She accused me of abandoning our son. Said I was setting a terrible example. Said I was proving her right by being a coward who runs when things get hard. It was like watching someone throw every dart they could find, hoping just one would hit a nerve. But I didn't give her the fight she wanted. I told her I'd be talking to my lawyer about joint custody, and if she tried to twist our son against me, I had plenty of documentation to show the court. That shut her up real fast. Then came the guilt. The waterworks. The fake tears. She sat on the stairs and sobbed into her hands, crying about how lonely she was, how I never saw her, how Aaron was just a stupid mistake and never meant anything. She even said, and I quote, "I never thought you'd actually leave me. I figured you'd fight for me, and that would mean you still cared." I stared at her like I didn't even know who she was anymore. Because I didn't. That night, I stayed at a friend's place, a guy I hadn't talked to much in years but who welcomed me like a brother when I told him what happened. Said he went through something similar. Told me I wasn't crazy for feeling both dead inside and weirdly relieved. And then, around midnight, I got a text from Lisa. "You're going to regret this. I promise." No punctuation. Just cold. I didn't answer. I screenshot it and sent it to my lawyer. The next morning, things got even messier. I got a call from my son's school. Lisa had pulled him out early. No explanation, just came in, signed him out, and left. I called her. No answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. I texted asking where she was, nothing. Then I got a message from an unknown number. "Stop harassing her or we'll report you." Guess who it was? Aaron. She had given him my number. And now he was threatening me. That's when I realized this wasn't just going to be a breakup. It was going to be a war. And she wasn't planning to fight fair. That text from Aaron, "Stop harassing her or we'll report you," was the moment something inside me snapped. Not with rage, not even with heartbreak. Just resolve. I was done playing defense. Done being the guy who sat there stunned while my life got hijacked. The next morning, I met with my lawyer again. I showed her the threats, the text from Lisa, the evidence of cheating, and told her everything, no filter. She was calm but firm. "We're going to push back. Hard. If she wants to play dirty, we'll play smarter." So we filed for divorce. My lawyer requested an emergency custody hearing, citing emotional instability and questionable behavior, especially around our son. She included the message history, the random school pickup, and, most importantly, my documented timeline of her cheating and lying. All backed up. Lisa wasn't expecting that. I know, because within 24 hours, she called me in tears again. "What are you doing?" she said, voice shaking. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." "You said I'd regret walking away," I told her. "Now I'm making sure I don't." The guilt trip came out again. You're hurting him, our son. You think he won't hate you for this? No, I said, dead calm. I think he'll understand one day. And I'll have the receipts when that time comes. Then she screamed, actually screamed into the phone. Said I was destroying her life. Said she had nothing left. And then she hung up. 10 minutes later, Aaron called me. Called me. This dude had the audacity to start with, listen, man to man. I hung up before he got past the second word. That evening, I got a message from a mutual friend. Someone I hadn't spoken to much recently, but who'd clearly been watching things unfold on social media. The message said, "You need to see this. Check Lisa's Instagram story. Fast." I did. There she was, sitting in our living room, crying into the camera, telling her followers how her abusive ex was trying to take her child away and kick her out of her home. She spun a full-blown fantasy where I was the villain. A manipulative narcissist. A monster. She even added, "I made mistakes, but I'm being punished like a criminal. All I ever wanted was love." The comments were full of sympathy. "Broken heart, you deserve better. Person with praying hands, stay strong, queen, fire, expose him." And I sat there, stunned. Not because I didn't expect it, but because it worked. People believed her. But here's the thing, I wasn't just watching. I was recording it all. Screenshotting. Saving. Documenting everything. Because I was going to fight back. Not with lies. Not with rage. But with facts. And soon, very soon, she'd realize she'd picked the wrong man to betray. The custody hearing was set for a Thursday morning. I showed up in a suit I hadn't worn in years, clutching a flash drive full of evidence like it was a weapon. My lawyer had prepped me the night before, be calm, be direct, don't let her bait you, but nothing really prepares you to sit across from someone who once vowed to love you and now looks at you like a sworn enemy. Lisa came in dressed like a victim. Subdued makeup, soft cardigan, even a pair of reading glasses she never wore. If she was trying to look like a schoolteacher from a Hallmark movie, she nailed it. And beside her, Aaron. This man had the gall to sit there with her like he belonged. Like he had a say. The judge asked questions. My lawyer answered clearly. She presented the texts, the camera footage, the bank transfers, the screenshots of her social media post accusing me of abuse. She painted the whole timeline like a map, and every road led back to Lisa lying, cheating, manipulating, and using our son like a pawn. Lisa cried on cue. Said I was controlling. Said I never made her feel safe. She even claimed I might have planted the camera. I almost laughed out loud. Then came the kicker. My lawyer dropped a bombshell I hadn't even known about until the morning of the hearing. Lisa had quietly opened a new credit card in my name 3 months earlier. Racked up nearly $6,000 on it. Spa days. Jewelry. One-night stays at hotels where she wasn't exactly alone. Lisa turned white. Stuttered something about a misunderstanding. The judge didn't buy it. By the end of the session, I had temporary joint custody and full permission to return to their home to retrieve the rest of my belongings, with police supervision if necessary. Lisa was warned about making false public accusations and advised to cease all communication through third parties, meaning Aaron needed to vanish from the picture. Walking out of that courtroom, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted. Like I'd been in a fistfight underwater. But I also felt the tide shifting. For once, the truth was starting to weigh more than her performance. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 days later, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman named Myra. Said she was Aaron's ex-wife. Look, she said, I saw your name come up in the court records. I need to tell you something about Lisa. About them. Apparently, Aaron and Lisa had known each other for nearly a year, long before the texts I'd uncovered. They met at some networking mixer and started hooking up almost immediately. What shocked me wasn't the timing, it was what Myra said next. She told him she was only with you for the house. That once she got the title in her name, she was done. I didn't say a word. I just listened, heart pounding. And you should also know, she added, Lisa told Aaron she was going to try to get pregnant. Thought it would make things stickier if you tried to divorce her. That part almost made me physically ill. Turns out, the woman who once cried in my arms during late-night talks had been plotting like a chess master. Manipulating finances, future plans, and now, apparently, reproduction. I thanked Myra and hung up, feeling like the ground under me had cracked open again. Lisa hadn't just lied. She had tried to trap me. After that call with Myra, I sat in my car outside the grocery store for nearly an hour, just processing. Everything made sense now. Lisa hadn't just cheated. She hadn't just lied. She had built an entire strategy around gutting my life and walking away with the spoils. I wasn't her husband, I was her mark. And something about that. Something about the calculation of it all, that's what finally pushed me from hurt to angry. Not rage. Not some impulsive meltdown. Just a focused, deliberate kind of anger. The kind that makes you move with precision. I called my lawyer and told her everything Myra had said. She immediately started building a case for financial fraud and manipulation. Meanwhile, I reached out to a digital forensic expert, yep, there's such a thing, and asked if they could recover deleted messages from Lisa's old phone. The one she gave to our son when she upgraded. I'd kept it. Just in case. Within a few days, I had more than I ever wanted to see, messages between her and Aaron going back nearly a year, just like Myra had said. Plans. Jokes about me. Messages where she referred to me as the bank. Aaron, classy as ever, wrote back. Just keep playing the game. He'll cave. What they didn't count on was that I had stopped playing. I sent screenshots of those messages, plus Myra's testimony, to my lawyer. I also sent a carefully worded email to Lisa. No threats. Just a list of what I had, and a professional note saying, I recommend you reconsider your current legal approach. I have everything. She didn't reply. But she saw it. Read receipt, time-stamped. And that same night, like clockwork, her Instagram story vanished. All the tearful posts. The fake accusations. Poof. Gone. Suddenly her account was full of inspirational quotes and pictures of her morning smoothies. But it was too late. Damage control wasn't going to save her. The next move was mine. I contacted a local mediator, someone completely separate from our lawyers, and offered to settle the divorce if Lisa agreed to 3 non-negotiable terms. I get shared custody of our son with no interference. She assumes full responsibility for the credit card debt she secretly created. She issues a signed statement retracting her public abuse claims. She refused at first. Said I was trying to blackmail her. I reminded her that blackmail implies a lie. What I had was just documentation. Then I sent her a draft of a possible public countersuit I was prepared to file. That got her attention. 4 days later, her lawyer called mine. They wanted to talk settlement. Lisa had gone from smug and untouchable to suddenly very sorry. She even wrote, in an email that I now keep saved like a trophy, I confess that I cheated. I took the property. I was angry. I didn't handle things right. I'm sorry for what I did. It wasn't an apology. It was a white flag. And I still wasn't done. Because now that I had her confession, and control of the narrative, I decided to tell my side of the story. Not for revenge. For clarity. For closure. And for every other guy out there getting manipulated by a smiling, well-practiced mask. I didn't take my story to the world out of spite. I did it because I'd spent months being lied about, silently, helplessly watching people who used to be friends like and comment on Lisa's posts about how she was the strong mother left behind by an abusive man. I stayed quiet at first because I thought it was the right thing to do. I didn't want to put our son in the middle of some public drama. But eventually, silence starts to feel like surrender. So I wrote out everything. Every ugly truth. The cheating. The fake crying. The financial lies. The texts between her and Aaron laughing about how clueless I was. Her confession. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't smear. I attached screenshots where appropriate, and I blurred names where it would have hurt others unnecessarily. I titled the post, "My wife cheated, took the property, lied in court, and still tried to make me the villain." I posted it on a private forum at first, one meant for people going through messy divorces, and it blew up within hours. Hundreds of comments. Dozens of private messages. Men and women both thanking me for telling the kind of story that usually gets buried beneath polished Instagram filters and fake, healing quotes. People shared their own experiences. One woman said, "My ex did the same. I stayed silent and it almost killed me. Thank you for making me feel seen." Another guy wrote, "I've been going through this exact situation. Your post saved me from going back to her." Then something unexpected happened. Mutual friends started reaching out. Quietly. Cautiously. One of Lisa's old friends messaged me privately and said, "I always thought something was off. I stopped talking to her after she cheated on her last boyfriend too. You deserved better." Apparently, this wasn't Lisa's first time running this playbook. It was just the first time someone blew their whistle. I never said anything to Lisa directly about the post. I didn't need to. I knew she'd seen it when she unfriended over 50 people in one day and deleted her entire social media presence the next. The ripple effects didn't stop there. Aaron, Mr. Real Man, apparently didn't like the spotlight. Word got around at his job, and from what I heard through the grapevine, his HR department had a little ethics chat with him. The company he worked for had a very clear policy about workplace relationships and public reputation, and apparently, his name getting dragged through a messy custody battle didn't sit well with management. He ghosted Lisa shortly after. Just vanished. She tried texting me again a week later. "Can we talk? I don't know who I am anymore." I didn't reply. Because I do know who she is. And that version of her? She's the one who taught me never to ignore the red flags just because they are wrapped in pretty smiles and shared memories. At that point, I had what I needed. Joint custody locked in. Financial protection secured. Her lies exposed. My voice reclaimed. But the story wasn't quite over. Because just when I thought I'd finally found peace, Lisa did something that caught me completely off guard. I was finally starting to settle back into a rhythm, shared custody was running smoothly, the house was out of my name, and my bank account had stopped bleeding. I wasn't healed, not completely, but for the first time in months, I was waking up without the weight of chaos crushing my chest. And then, just like that, it came crashing down again. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was at the park with my son, tossing a football back and forth, when I got a call from my sister. She never calls me unless something's really wrong. She sounded off. Nervous. Hesitant. I asked her what was going on. And after a long pause, she just said, "I need to tell you something about Lisa. And Lindsay. Lindsay is my sister-in-law. Lisa's younger sister. Sweet. Soft-spoken. Always seemed a little withdrawn but kind. She was going through fertility issues with her husband, and Lisa had been helping her through it. Or so I thought. My stomach dropped. What about them? I asked, trying to stay calm while my kid shouted for another throw. There was another pause. Then she said, Lisa was never just cheating with Aaron. She told Lindsay she'd be her surrogate. But she didn't go through a clinic. She faked the paperwork. Claimed she got implanted. But she wasn't. She got pregnant, naturally. With Aaron's baby. On purpose. I had to sit down. Apparently, Lisa told Lindsay that she'd found a private arrangement to save time and money. She convinced Lindsay and her husband to pay her under the table, monthly, for carrying their baby. Thousands of dollars. And the kicker? There was no medical record of any official surrogacy. No contracts. No doctor visits. Nothing legit. Just Lisa lying with a fake belly band and carefully timed photos. I was in shock. She never got pregnant, my sister said. Or maybe she did, but it wasn't for Lindsay. The pieces clicked together like a puzzle made of razors. Lisa's weird weight gain. Her fake emotional breakdowns. The secret doctor appointments. The unexplained mood swings. It hadn't just been about Aaron, or about screwing me over. She'd conned her own sister for money. And possibly tricked Aaron into getting her pregnant, to pass the child off as someone else's. I confronted Lisa that night over the phone. I didn't even yell, I was too numb for that. Her response? You don't know the full story. You never do. And anyway, it's not your business anymore. I could hear Aaron's voice in the background. At that moment, I realized she didn't care who she hurt. Me. Her sister. Aaron. Our son. No one mattered to her unless they were serving her in some way. I made one more call, this time to Lindsay. She broke down crying. Said she suspected something was off but didn't want to believe her own sister could do something so vile. Turns out, she and her husband had paid Lisa over $30,000 across 7 months, most of it in cash. Lisa had faked a pregnancy for cash while cheating on me, lying in court, and using our child as leverage. That wasn't just betrayal. That was pure sociopathy. After I hung up with Lindsay, I sat in my apartment for a long time, just staring at the wall. 30 grand. Her own sister. A faked pregnancy. And all while dragging me through divorce court, trying to take my son, claiming to be the victim. I thought I'd reached my limit before. But this was beyond anything I could have imagined. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just betrayal. This was criminal. Predatory. And deeply calculated. Lindsay came over the next day with a folder full of evidence, bank statements, text messages, and the kicker, a phony surrogacy agreement Lisa had typed up on a Google Doc and printed out, no signatures, no medical backing, just a big performance wrapped in emotional manipulation. She handed it all to me and said, I want to go to the police, but I'm terrified of what she'll do. You've been through this. What would you do? I told her the truth. I wouldn't stop. Together, we took it to a lawyer, hers this time. He looked at the documentation, shook his head, and muttered, if even half of this holds up, your sister's in serious legal trouble. The next move. A family dinner. I know, sounds insane. But Lindsay arranged it. Said she wanted to give Lisa a chance to come clean. She invited Lisa, her husband, me, my sister, and 2 other family members. Lisa, of course, showed up late. All smiles. Dressed like she was going to brunch, not walking into a firing squad. We were all sitting around the table when Lindsay brought out the documents and laid them down in front of her. Lisa looked at them. Blinked. Laughed. This is ridiculous, she said, waving her hand. You seriously think I faked a pregnancy? What the hell is wrong with you? Lindsay didn't flinch. I know you did. You're paranoid, Lisa snapped. God, this family is toxic. And then I stood up, reached into my pocket, and pulled out a small USB drive. I plugged it into the TV behind us and hit play. Up came the footage. A hidden camera from Lisa's garage, same one I'd used to catch her with Aaron. Different day. This time, it was her talking on the phone, pacing. I'd cleaned up the audio, isolated the voice. No, she thinks it's hers. She bought it. Of course she did. You flash some fake ultrasounds and cry a little, people eat it up. Silence at the table. Lisa froze. My son's voice, from the hallway, broke the silence. Mom. She turned and saw him. Lindsay had brought him, just in case Lisa tried to pull the victim card again. Lisa's whole body deflated. She sat down and whispered, You were never supposed to find that. That was it. No more lies. No screaming. Just collapse. Lindsay broke down. Her husband stared at the wall like he'd been shot. And Lisa? She just sat there, staring at the floor, no more games left to play. After that dinner, everything moved fast. Lindsay's lawyer filed charges. Fraud, misrepresentation, possibly even wire fraud depending on how the payments had been sent. Aaron ghosted everyone. My custody case became open and shut. The court granted me majority custody based on the emotional damage Lisa's behavior had caused, not just to me, but to our son. Lisa? She lost their house. Lost custody. Lost access to most of our joint assets. She kept the one thing she cared about though, her pride. Even as everything burned, she never said, sorry. Not really. But by then, I didn't need her apology. I already had her confession. The weeks after the family dinner were quiet. For the first time in what felt like years, there was no yelling, no legal threats, no messages from random numbers telling me I'd regret everything. Just stillness. Lisa moved out of the house shortly after the court orders came through. No big speech, no drama this time. She packed her things while I was gone and left a single note on the kitchen counter. Tell our son I'll always love him. I hope someday you both forgive me. That note stayed in the trash. I got majority custody, just like the judge promised. Lisa got supervised visitation twice a month, pending further evaluation. She didn't fight it. I think at that point, she'd lost the will to keep pretending. Our son, to his credit, was stronger than I expected. I never spoke badly about Lisa around him. He asked questions, and I gave him age-appropriate honesty. Mom made some bad choices. We're all trying to heal. But you didn't do anything wrong. He just nodded and hugged me. I know, Dad. You're the one who stayed. That one stuck with me. I went back to work full-time. Got promoted, actually. I'd thrown myself into it hard during the storm, and apparently someone noticed. I found a rhythm: work, pick-up, homework, dinner, bedtime. Peace. I started running again. Joined a local dad group, of all things. Not the kind that talks about feelings over tea, though honestly, we probably should, but the kind that organizes camping trips and grills steaks in someone's backyard on Saturdays. Turns out, a lot of those guys had been through their own version of hell. I wasn't alone, and that was comforting in a quiet, unspoken way. Social media? Deleted. Every platform. I didn't want to see Lisa's next act. Didn't care what lies she spun. I was done letting her rent space in my head. Lindsay and I stayed in touch. Not in a weird way, just survivors of the same hurricane. She got her money back, mostly. The legal case against Lisa was still crawling through the system, but it had teeth now. Real consequences were coming. Slowly, but surely. One night, about 3 months after the courtroom finalization, I sat on the back porch with a glass of whiskey, just breathing. My son was asleep upstairs. The house was quiet. And I realized I wasn't waiting for the next crisis. I wasn't checking my phone in fear. I wasn't flinching at every email. I was free. That's when it hit me: I'd spent years trying to fix a woman who wasn't broken, she was just fake. Everything with Lisa had been transactional. She didn't love me. She loved control, validation, admiration. When I stopped giving her those things, she replaced me. Like a job title. It hurt, yeah. But it also made me realize how much I'd grown numb. How much of myself I'd shoved into a box just to keep the peace. And now? The box was gone. I was rebuilding. On my terms. With my son, my sanity, and my dignity. And that was worth more than any apology Lisa could ever fake. About 6 months after everything finally settled, custody, finances, the fallout from Lisa's mess, I started seeing familiar names pop up in my inbox again. Old friends. Former co-workers. Even a couple of people I hadn't heard from since our wedding day. One message stood out. It was from Rachel. We'd dated back in college. One of those deep, electric relationships that didn't survive the realities of adulthood. We'd broken up on good terms, drifted apart, lost touch. She'd gotten married, I'd met Lisa. Life happened. Her message was simple. Hey. I read your story, someone shared it on a group I follow. I didn't know you'd gone through all that. Just wanted to say I'm sorry you had to deal with it. You deserved better. I stared at that message for 20 minutes before responding. Thank you. That means more than you know. What followed wasn't some movie-worthy reconnect ion. There was no whirlwind romance, no dramatic, meant-to-be moment. What we had was real talk. Emails, a phone call, then lunch at a quiet place near the water. We caught up like old friends, laughing, remembering, marveling at how young and stupid we were. She told me her marriage had ended too. A clean break, thankfully. No betrayal. Just two people growing in different directions. What surprised me wasn't the connection. It was how easy it felt. Like breathing. After lunch, we walked around the marina and she said, "You seem lighter than I expected. After everything you've been through." And I told her the truth, that's because for the first time in years, I'm not pretending. We didn't make any promises. No, let's see where this goes. We just parted with a hug. A real one. One of those hugs where you actually feel human again. But that wasn't the final test. The final test came 3 days later. Lisa showed up at my door. I opened it and found her standing there, makeup-free, eyes hollow. Holding a small box. "I was cleaning and found some of your things," she said. I didn't answer. "I saw that you're doing better," she added. "I'm happy for you." I waited. Because I knew it wasn't the end of the sentence. Then she looked at me and said it, "I miss you." Just 3 words. Simple. Soft. Like a rope being dangled back into the well. But I didn't reach for it. I looked at her and said, "I don't miss who I was when I was with you." That hit her harder than anything I'd said in court. She gave a sad smile. I figured. Then handed me the box, turned, and walked away. And that was it. Closure. Not the kind you beg for. The kind you earn. Not because you get revenge. Not because you get justice. But because you choose peace. After Lisa left that day, I stood in the doorway for a while, holding that box. Inside were a few old notebooks, a watch I thought I'd lost, and a birthday card from my son when he was 5. That one made me sit down. Not out of sadness, but gratitude. Because somehow, despite everything, lies, betrayal, manipulation, I still had him. My son. My anchor. My reason to keep showing up every single day. People ask me sometimes if I regret the marriage. If I'd go back and undo it all if I could. The honest answer? No. Because without that storm, I wouldn't have found my spine. I wouldn't have learned to stop clinging to people who only love the version of you that serves them. I wouldn't have learned what real peace feels like. And I wouldn't be the father I am now. Lisa doesn't come around much anymore. Her visits with our son are civil, but distant. She plays the part of the apologetic mother, but even our kid sees through most of it now. He doesn't ask many questions. He knows who stayed. Lindsay and I still talk. We went through hell together in different ways. She's rebuilding, too, stronger now. Wiser. She once told me, Lisa underestimated both of us. She thought we'd fold. We didn't. And that's what broke her in the end. Not the court. Not the custody. Just the simple fact that we survived her. As for me, I'm dating again, slowly, carefully, with eyes wide open. I don't chase fireworks anymore. I chase peace. That feeling when you sit beside someone and don't feel the need to fix, perform, or beg for basic decency. I've also started writing more, real stuff. About betrayal, survival, forgiveness. Not for revenge. For clarity. There's something powerful about telling your own story before someone else twists it. To anyone reading this, especially if you're where I was, questioning your reality, excusing the red flags, convincing yourself to hold on just a little longer, let me say this. You are not crazy. You are not weak. And you do not have to light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. There's life on the other side of betrayal. It's quiet. It's solid. And it's yours. I found mine. Now it's your turn.